So welcome back to Badass Conjure, No Narc Network TV and Oshun Ajay exclusive. If you've already seen my dream about the time of change, then you may want to skip this video. This is just basically the re-upload of my dream about the time of change. I extracted it from the narcissism video that it was a part of. And I wanted to upload the dream, by itself so that people who haven't seen the dream, it actually was on another one of my channels. The original was on another one of my channels, and then this one was part of another video. So I wanted to, extract it and put it on here so that the people who haven't seen it or don't know about it will be able to see it. And so that when I'm referring to parts of my dream as we go forward studying in the classes, in the Dissecting the Devil classes, you will know what I'm talking about as far as when I refer to my dream. Okay, so if you've already seen it, then you can still watch it, but you don't have to, because this is again a re-upload. Okay, so this is my dream about the time of change. This is a dream that I had over 20 years ago, and it was prophetic. And the reason why it's very pertinent right now is that the time that this dream was foretelling is here. Okay, it is here and it has come. Okay, so this is the reason why it's important for you guys to know the details of the dream, and why I'm studying and teaching about narcissism, and exactly who the narcissists represent in the dream that I had, and why it's so important that we slay them. Okay, so without further ado, here is my dream about the time of change with added commentary. So my dream began with the person that I was in a relationship at the time, and I were sitting next to one another on the couch in the apartment that I lived in with him at the time. Okay, and above our heads were floating two huge butterflies. Okay, the butterflies were two different types of butterflies, basically indicating to me that we were two different breeds of people, and that the relationship probably wouldn't last. Okay, because that was one of the questions that was on my heart at the time when I had the dream. Okay, so not only were the butterflies above our heads, the one above my head was a monarch butterfly, which if you'll research the MK Ultra monarch mind control situation, there'll be a lot that actually unfolded for me going forward after I learned about the monarch butterflies and all that afterwards. But anyway, because this dream was over 20 years ago, by the way, it's probably at least 15, 20 years ago. I'm thinking about 20 years ago because my daughter was not 5 years old yet. Okay, so but anyway, so what happened? Okay, so the butterflies were over our heads. I had a monarch over my head, and it was larger than the average butterfly. Okay, the butterfly that was over his head was a huge, silky, velvety, jet black butterfly that had a rim around it that was hot pink, very unusual looking, and it moved very beautiful and gracefully, and it was very beautiful. So basically, but that's not the point. The point was that those butterflies were there, and the message for me, about them being two different ones was again that that was not the relationship, and I'm not in that relationship right now. But also there were butterflies of different sizes all over the house, all throughout the apartment. Okay, all the way from the front to the back. So I got the overall message that it was the time of change, which is why I call this dream, because it was a prophetic dream, the time of change. Okay, the next scene from that was that I was at my job. Okay, and in real life, I have been an executive assistant to a lot of different businessmen, quote unquote businessmen. Okay. So I was at work. It was a typical office setting. People had their desks. Some people had cubicles, and the boss, he had his own office that basically had windows that you can see through, but you basically couldn't hear anything if you were in his office. And he had a full view of the office. Okay, and of course I had a desk that was near his office. Okay. So one by one, he was calling in the employees. Okay, and before I go forward, I wanted to make a note that it wasn't a specific person who was the boss, but it basically was telling us about a specific type of person. Okay, so the boss was the typical white guy, middle-aged, older white guy, wearing a dark suit. Okay, because in the first dream, when I was telling the first dream, I said that they would be wearing a black or a brown suit, and actually I didn't mean to say brown, I meant to say blue. Okay, so they were the typical like I said, middle-aged white guy wearing a black or brown suit. Okay, white shirt and a dark tie. So he was calling the people in one by one and supposedly briefing them on something that was regarding the company. So this reminds me of when in the book, when the devil said that he kept talking about his coworkers, and he talked about how one by one he was indoctrinating like the teachers, the religious instructors, and people's parents to fulfill his agenda, as far as teaching the children how to drift, you know what I'm saying? Teaching the children his agenda and how to fulfill his agenda. I realized that was what I was witnessing in my dream. I was witnessing, these people one by one being hypnotized, being possessed in order to go out and possess other people. Okay, that we worked for. Okay, so me being, curious as I am, I was wondering why, if this was a briefing about the company, why was he calling people in one by one and not, just briefing everyone in one big meeting? Okay, so I began to be curious and I began to listen to what was being said in the meetings. So one by one, he would call them in and he would leave the door open, And again, my desk was very close to the door. So I just tuned in and I noticed that he was saying things about the company. But in between those words, there were other words being spoken, words that were in Latin that I, at the time, did not know the meaning of. Also, there was a second voice that manifested as a devilish undertone in his voice. Okay, so that how you've heard it on movies, when a person is possessed, you hear that second demonic voice. Okay, so I heard that in his voice, and then when the people, after getting the briefing, because what was happening was that they didn't hear those extra words that he was slipping in. They were like subliminal. For some reason I could hear them, okay, but they didn't. They only heard the words that he was saying that were regarding the company. So when they came out of the office, they also had that demonic undertone in their voices, and they didn't know it. So basically what was happening was these people were going into his office one by one, being possessed, and they didn't even know it. And I remember in the book him saying, talking about how they were going about and doing his bidding without even knowing it, which basically took me back to my dream, because that's exactly what I was seeing. These people being indoctrinated and possessed and coming back out having this evil spirit within them and being completely oblivious to what had happened to them. So they would come out and they were possessed and didn't even know it. Okay, so moving forward, and I'm going to come back to where I am. Well, let me go finish with the dream. Okay, so they were possessed. Okay, so I noticed that what was happening, and I was like, oh hell no, you know what I'm saying? I am not going in here, because I see what's happening. I got to find a way to get the hell up out of here, and that was my goal. Okay, so I'm looking for a way to get up out of here. And let me mention that there was a security guard that stood by outside the door of the office, okay? And this security guard was not human, okay? Because he did not speak words. He made grunts, okay? Like, And when he would make those grunts, you did, he was communicating what he wanted to say. You did understand what he was meaning, but he didn't speak, okay? And he was not completely human. For some reason, in the dream, this was normal, okay? So I go to the boss who trusted me, and I told him, look, I got something in my car. Well, first of all, let me back up. I noticed that the reason I mentioned the security guard was because when I first noticed the people coming out and they were possessed, I decided that I was going to leave. So I tried to get up and just walk out, which I had always been free to do. And this is when the security guard made this grunting noise and a gesture like, telling me basically you can't leave, right? So I'm like, oh, you got me messed up. You know what I'm saying? Because, I'm not one of these people and you're not keeping me up in here. You know what I'm saying? So I knew that I had to be cunning. So I go to the boss. Like I said, he trusted me. I said, look, this motherfucker is trying to not let me out of the door. I need to go get some shit out of my car. What's going on? So I was pretending not to know anything about what was going on. And, like I didn't know nothing. And it was a regular day and I was trying to go get something out of my car. However, the security guard, again, who was not human, he knew that I had figured it out. Okay. But the boss, who was the one who was possessing the people, he did not know. Okay. So the boss told the security guard to let me out the damn door and leave me alone. Right. So I was like, yeah, motherfucker, move, so he moves out of the way. He lets me out the door, but he didn't trust me. So he's still looking at me and kind of following behind me a little bit, and so I'm like, damn, this motherfucker's following me and shit. So if I go to my car and get in, it's going to cause this big ruckus, you know what I'm saying? Or he's going to try to stop me. I'm going to have to fight this big motherfucker or whatever. So when I went out the door, he was kind of following behind me, but at a little distance, and he was walking kind of, he wasn't really right behind me, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of making sure I go to my car. So when I get outside the door, this girl pulls up, okay, in a station wagon. It was a white girl. Blonde white girl. She pulls up. I get in the station wagon because she has a car full of a few other employees in the building who had figured it out. And they was like, get in, get in, get in. So instead of trying to fight him to get in my own car, I just jumped in the car with them because I didn't give a damn. I was just trying to get away. Okay. So when I get in the car with them. So the girl, it's a long ass station wagon. I remember there was other people in the car. There was one other black person, which was a black man whose leg was broken. Okay. And that stood out because we had to keep the back of the station wagon open. You know how they have that little door that flips down? Well, we had to open that. And I remember him sitting in the very back of it. There was a couple of other people back there with him, but his leg had to stick out of that door because he had a cast on his leg and his leg was broken, which is very indicative of a black man in this war being partially crippled. Okay. So anyway, there was other white people in the car. I remember the girl, there was another girl, white girl. There was me. I think everybody else was white men. And then when we got to her house, which was out in the country, this is where she drove us to, a small little, modest little house out in the country. And we get there and we're all discussing what had happened and what we had seen. Okay. And so I'm telling them about what I noticed and what made me run out of the door, of the place. And she had two little brothers that were there. Okay. And I'm going to come back to the two little brothers because they're very significant in the story because they were children. Okay. They looked to be maybe between the ages of 7 and 9 years old. Okay. And the children were significant because the devil admitted in the book that children are his main target demographic. Okay. I was telling everyone while I'm telling them about what I seen, I told them about the words that I heard in Latin. And the little boys, because they read these like comic books that were based on the occult and things of that nature, they knew what the words meant. Okay. And they was started saying the words, okay? And as they were saying the words, this demonic undertone in their voices began to rise up in them, okay? So the same way that I would see it appear in the other people at work, okay? And so I just, naturally, because they were children, I just grabbed them and shook it out of them and told them, don't say that, don't say that. And so as I would shake it, was shaking them, I saw that spirit go away from them, okay? Fly up out of them, basically. And so after right after I shook that spirit out of them, we heard like a racket at the doors and windows, right? So we look up, and this was like a scene in a movie, I swear. We look up and we look at the windows, we look at the doors and everywhere, and all we see are faces. Like there was no clear spot on the doors or the windows. Every single spot on the door or the window or any spot that you could see through was covered with the face of a demonic person. So basically what it represented and what it was symbolizing was that the whole world was possessed, okay? And they didn't even know it, but they were after us, who were, like I said, 5 adults and 2 little boys, okay, that were in the house who had not yet been possessed, and they were trying to get to us, okay? So what I knew was, in my heart, was that we had to fight these people, okay? So this war was going to come. We knew in our hearts that were already promised the victory of this war. We were not afraid of these people. We just were taking in the sheer volume of people that we were going to have to fight. We knew that we were going to win because somehow the knowing was put into our hearts. We knew that we were going to have to fight, but we had to fight like the whole world. So it basically represented 5% of the world who were empathic in nature, okay, and 2 children. And then the whole rest of the world, being 95% of the world, being narcissistic in nature, okay? And so, again, knowing we were going to win the fight, that did not take away the fact that we had to fight, meaning that we may lose something. You could lose a limb, you could lose an eye, you can lose some of your faculties, you might get hurt, you will get hurt, you are going to take some blows, you're going to take some L's, but at the end of the day, the victory is yours. Okay, so that was how the dream ended, with us looking up, evaluating the fact that we were surrounded in this little house. Okay, and the house always represents your soul, yourself, within yourself, surrounded by these demonically possessed people, and knowing going in that we were going to win the fight, and that we had to fight. Now, that's how that dream ended. But there was a part 2 to that dream, okay? And that one was called The Great Fire, because there are other parts to the dream, okay, that do link up with occurrences and things that have been happening in our society, okay? So basically, I just wanted to tell that part of the dream so that you will understand what I'm talking about when I relate it to, things like Tasha K, my own personal stalker, what's happening in the government with our very narcissistic president, and, things that may be happening in your own personal lives going forward. Okay.
Their condition is connected to the demonic realm. Okay. So we clearly need a wider focus here.
Why must there be a war, you ask? Let's listen to Vaknin, who's a self-proclaimed diabolical narcissist.
According to Vaknin, going back to him, extreme trauma can sometimes break, quote unquote, a diabolical narcissist. He claims that's what happened to him. He says he's still a diabolical narcissist and a psychopath, but that he became more self-aware when he was arrested and put in prison. Given how widespread diabolical narcissism is now in today's culture, it's terrifying to think of how extreme a trauma will be needed to reform an entire civilization. Because that's what we're talking about here. Something is going to have to happen that is so bad and so traumatic that even the diabolical narcissists are shaken by it. This is a terrifying thing to think about, because this implies just catastrophic war and likely civilizational collapse. Rampant worldwide diabolical narcissism was foretold by our Lord in the Gospels. Matthew 24:12, and because iniquity hath abounded, the charity of many shall grow cold. What does that mean? The charity of many will grow cold. People will be incapable of love. They will purge all love out of their hearts. And Luke 18:8, the Son of Man, when he cometh, shall he find, think you, faith on earth? Mass apostasy, which implies mass diabolical narcissism.
Which is now an epidemic because the devil successfully implemented his plan from 1938, which was to cause mass fear, where he could cause mass hypnosis and therefore mass diabolical narcissism.
Those who know about and understand diabolical narcissism and can recognize it when it enters their life and even attacks them personally have far better odds of surviving it and not becoming diabolical narcissists themselves. The key is discrediting diabolical narcissists. That's the key to everything, and that is why I am making this video. This is the entire motivation. If you know what this is, and it comes after you, you can look at a diabolical narcissist and say, exactly as you would look at a demon who manifested in front of you and started hissing at you how much it hated you. You would just look at it and say, I know what you are, and you can't hurt me. I know what you are, and you can't hurt me. Not anymore. If you, after watching this, have just realized, oh my gosh, someone I love is probably a diabolical narcissist, and you're sitting there feeling intense disappointment, it's okay. Mourn them. Mourn that person. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Do not fall into the vampiric trap of all of this, of then losing all love yourself and basically turning into the thing that just attacked you.
Okay, you guys, so I just wanted to do a quick review of the dream so that going forward, you will be able to relate to when I refer to the dream, as far as a lot of the things that we are going to reveal that the devil, has to tell us about the ways that he moves and the ways that he is affecting and basically controlling people's thoughts. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to go over that. I wanted to have it on record, but if you guys want to see the video that I extracted this from, it is the Narc Empath War Explained. I may have spelled out the whole word, the Narcissist Empath War Explained, and that is on my No Narc Network TV channel. Okay, so this is going to be the end of lesson 5, a very quick lesson. And again, it was just a review of the dream so that going forward in the book that we will be able to refer back to the dream for those of you who hadn't seen it. Okay, so lesson 6, we will be continuing with the breaking down the book by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. If anyone would like to join the No Narc Network, the link to Oshun Ajay exclusive and Badass Witch exclusive will both be in the description, and you can join the network through either one of those crowdfunding sites. Okay, if you want to see all of my narc videos exposing the narcissists on YouTube and elsewhere, you want to subscribe to No Narc Network TV. And until we meet again, my people, keep it classy, keep it clean, and do what you got to do to make shit happen. Peace.